ESPN did something recently. I mean, we're coming up on 25 years into this century now, and they love to make lists. You and I like to make fun of lists around here because we don't find any of this like list making to be very fun outside of faux controversy. But they put out what they called, I believe it was the top 100 athletes since the year 2000. And I've heard some interesting opinions on this, but number one is Michael Phelps. And many people have said, how could somebody who only competes every 4 years be number one? And I immediately think those people don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, come on. I mean, the guy is like the most successful Olympian of all time. We just talked about, how special it is to be the best in the world at something and to be as dominant as he was. I don't have a problem with that. Um, I think that for me, for my taste, way too many tennis players
A
ranked
lot of
high on
tennis
this list,
players.
which I found interesting. I think that it's so subjective because everybody's going to have a different answer for a lot of these. It's like the whole who's better, Michael or LeBron or Kobe. It's so subjective, and um, it's and also too, not surprisingly, I think that ESPN made a strong effort to be as equal as possible throughout this list in multiple ways, which is fine. But I don't. To me, like as I read through it, I'm like, okay, that person's a great athlete. Like every single one, I'm like, that person's a great athlete. That person's a great athlete. But as far as like, you could have like put those 100 names in a hat, and with a few exceptions, you could have just drawn them out of a hat and put them in order and gotten the same result essentially. I just felt like it was just a list of great athletes as opposed to like a ranking. I had a hard time like viewing it as a ranking.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is it's all subjective. But so just for transparency, Michael Phelps was number one, Serena Williams was number two, number three was Messi, of course, your boy. Number four was LeBron. Number five was Tom Brady. Number six was Roger Federer. Seven, Simone Biles. Eight, Tiger Woods. Nine, Usain Bolt. And 10, Kobe Bryant. We're not going to go over all 100, but I will say this about something like this. If you're trying to rank in any way, individual sports and dominating in an individual sport is much easier to get the championship accolades that go with domination, right? So, like Michael Phelps being in a sport that only he has to compete with him, like he's not in a team. He doesn't have to rely on a bunch of people. Now, of course, there are relays and certain things like that he did famously in 2008, one of the most exciting swimming races I've ever seen. But for the most part, it's him competing against the other people and the other competition. And same thing with like tennis. Serena Williams, she's facing one person every single time. She doesn't have to worry about some other teammate who dropped the ball or something like that. And so I agree with you that when you put these individual sports people on there, that it does make it a little harder to discern. Now, let's take Tiger Woods, for example. Now, Tiger Woods had a moment in time or a time period where you tuned in to watch him. And to me, that's the kind of intangible thing that I think goes into what considers people great. I took umbrage with LeBron over Brady because I'm like, okay, LeBron has longevity and things like that, but like winning in football is really, really hard to do. And it's also the ultimate team sport because you have so many other people to rely on. Tom Brady is not out on the field at all times. And so for him to do what he did and win as much as he did, knowing all the factors that go into it, to me, that's more impressive than LeBron being under 500 in the finals. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. I think that, and I mean, and Tom Brady's, you talk about longevity. I mean, that guy played until he was 40, right? So,
$45.
yeah, I mean, he had plenty of longevity, and to do what he did, it's we haven't seen anything like it, and he did it with two different teams, two different franchises, and you could really make an argument that a lot of the times he did it, like if you read through a lot of those rosters, now obviously there was great teams, but those are not star-studded um, rosters where you're going to read through and be like, I mean, the best team he ever had as far as like quality of the roster from a just on paper didn't win the Super Bowl, and that was the team with Randy Moss, uh, the loss to the Giants or whatever. I mean, the 16-0 and everything else. Now, granted, I mean that team was the best team in the league by far, hands down. It's just the Giants made one more play that night, but it's he's shaking your head over there. That's probably a painful memory. But
So just to since you asked, it's the only game I've never gotten over. Like for the most part, everything else is just like whatever. It's sports, but that one really hurt for many reasons because of all the things that happened, who they lost to, how the game went. Like just there's so many factors that just the losing a Super Bowl is one thing, but losing immortality, that hurts on a different level. And it's the only game that I still, because you had that stupid helmet catch by a guy who never made a catch in the NFL again after that, but is in the front office for the Giants, or at least he was last I checked.
was
So
it
like,
David Tyree? Is that
yes, David
was
Tyree. And
say his name? Say his name.
covered by
Iceman.
Rodney Harrison, right? I mean, that whole play where, gosh, I mean, the play lasted so long, there had to have been a holding call somewhere. Like there's so many things about that play that are so ridiculous, and good for them, they won. That's the only one that hurts. That's all I'll say about that.
No, and that's fair, man. As sports fans, we've all been a part of losses like that are just tough to take, and they sit with you for a long time. That's the beauty of sports. And but yeah, that list is interesting. And I do think the individual aspect versus team sports makes it tough. And the point you made about Tiger Woods being like appointment viewing, and I feel like Michael Phelps is that way,
Oh,
too.
100%.
And I think if you look through that and said, if I knew this person was competing, would I stop what I was doing to turn on the TV? Uh, that's like a good indicator of probably where they should, if they should be on this list or where they should be on this list. And to be honest with you, through those top 10 to 15 on the list, there's not a lot of them that I would be like, yep, yep, yep. Probably a handful. And
Well,
no, that's just personal preference too, as
yes.
far as sports that I'm into and things like that. I have nothing against I coach tennis, played tennis. I have nothing against the sport of tennis. I'm just not really interested in watching it.
Sure, but like let's take Simone Biles for instance, right? We talk about gymnastics,
Uh,
and
Appointment
she
viewing.
well, she is doing things that nobody has ever done, to the point where they're naming moves after her. So, in that regard, I think she has earned this status. I mean, clearly she comes with the accolade, she comes with the talent, and nobody has really ever come close. And that's why I say Tiger. Like Tiger in that 99 through 2002 period was just insane, to the point that taking Tiger over the field wasn't that crazy at the time. Like he was that good and that dominant, and people tuned in to watch him. But the one, and Usain Bolt, right? The fastest man in the world. I mean, he was so good in something that has such a high bar, and to be as consistent and win as often as he did in what a lot of people consider the most exciting sports event ever, right? And of all time. I like stuff like that. But the one that got me when I scrolled through like the top 20 is Tim Duncan ranked over Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq has to hate that.
Yeah. I'm sure he does. And that's why I said it's so subjective. And you're looking through this, and it's like you could throw these people in about any order that you wanted to. And yeah, I'm certain that Shaq takes exception.
Yeah, and like Sidney Crosby at 22. Like, I mean,
Yeah, a lot of these they just feel weird. Like
yeah, I mean, yeah. So like you scroll through, I mean, they had Lewis Hamilton, and I'm like, F1 just had a minute like 5 minutes ago. Like, is it really one of the, I don't know. So like there's a lot of things where if I don't know anything about the sport, it's hard for me to say it, but it's all subjective. But I really wanted to use it to say, like, anybody who says that Michael Phelps isn't worthy of that honor because you only give a crap about him every 4 years, the dominance was there. And it's one thing to be good at what you do. It's another thing to be dominant. And so I think that that's fair. But if you want to go look at the whole list, go to ESPN. You can get angry, get upset. And if you want to give us your take, you can always call us. 703-718-6314 is the number to give us that opinion, or whatever it is that you want to do. Just get angry, right? Because